Well, it's 7:01, and we do have a panelist who is on the move and has to be on the go very soon. So we're going to get started with tonight's Leadership Learning webinar. Thank you all for coming, especially thank you panelists for coming to provide your experience and your knowledge. In Toastmasters, we learn by doing. So we want to learn some of the things you've done, some of the things that you've learned. And we're going to be learning about district leadership positions. Which ones are elected? Which ones are not, but are still considered district leadership positions? We are fortunate to have some very experienced district leaders here. Our panel tonight is going to be chaired by the chair of the District Leadership Committee. Christy Peterson, Distinguished Toastmaster, is the immediate past district director. I'd like to turn the program over to her to get the panel going. Christy?
Thank you so much, Yvonne. And yes, this is the opportunity for our members in District 50, and particularly those leaders who are ready to take it up a notch, to learn more about what is involved in district leadership. The opportunities are awesome. I speak from firsthand experience, but I really want you to hear from some of our panelists tonight. We are going to start then by letting them each introduce themselves and tell us just a little bit about what their current and recent roles are in district leadership. And then we'll come around in terms of a panel asking questions, getting answers. Encourage you in the audience here on the Zoom call to let us know if you have a related question. You could do that by typing something in the chat, or at certain points, we will go ahead and ask you if you have questions and go ahead and call on you for that. The meeting is being recorded because we believe this is a topic that others will want to know more. I know there are some who've said, oh, I'd love to come, but I had to work tonight. So we want to be able to provide the district leadership nomination process for all. But let's start off with meeting our panelists tonight. Going in alphabetical order by first name, I want to introduce Dan Reeder and have you tell us what you have been doing in district leadership. Dan.
Oh, thank you, Christy. I have been in Toastmasters, I don't know, 6 years now. I waited a long time to get into district service. I waited all of 18 months to do that. I am the current Pathways Education Chair for this year. I am a past Plains Division Director, past Area Director. I also was part of, or I led the committee on alignment chair for the 2023-2024 year. I don't know whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think some of the clubs will have to tell me how well we did on that. That is what I'm currently doing. That's what I have been doing, serving as some sort of district role for the past 4 years.
Very good. Thank you. And from my perspective, being a district alignment chair is a good thing because clubs do move around from time to time, and it's good to have that balance. Okay, I want to introduce next Denise Castile, Distinguished Toastmaster. And many of you know Denise, but have her explain what her roles have been and currently are in district leadership. Denise.
Thank you, Christy. It is awesome to be here. My current role is Club Growth Director, and other roles that I've had have included Quality Education Chair twice, Area Director, Leadership Learning Co-Chair, Fall Conclave Chair, and I think that's it. I think those are the roles that I've held. Thank you.
Very good. Well, and as we point out here and move to our third panelist, both Dan and Denise have roles that have been in that leadership aspect of going from area director, which you've both done, and the division director, Dan's talked about that, and then moving into the trio, we have Denise in that current role, and our next panelist has done many of these roles as well. Let me introduce our current district director, Kelly McMaster, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Thank you, Christy. And welcome, everyone, to our panel this evening on leadership. I, too, have had many roles. I started in Las Vegas. I was an area director in Las Vegas. I was also on the Reformation Committee. So we were originally part of District 33, and we split and became District 115. And if you ever have that opportunity, take it. It's probably the most interesting thing you will be. I was also part of other committees and chairs for our conferences and TLI. And then I moved to Texas, and here in Texas again, I've been TLI trainer. I have been an area director, division director, club growth director, and now district director. So I've had plenty of opportunity to learn and grow in District 50 and District 115.
Excellent. And to me, that experience, in my case, and I think probably in yours as well, Kelly, having that variety of experience has made it much more doable for me anyway to be in that leadership role, because you've seen so many different things. They're not all the same. That's what makes leadership so fantastic, is it's not like same old, same old. There could be something new that came along. When I put my name in for nomination as club growth director, we didn't know we were going to have a pandemic. It hadn't happened yet, but it did pretty quick. Even before the election, we had to scramble as a district and move into much more Zoom online activities, and of course the hybrid. And very pleased that we have been successful with hybrid meetings. What I would like to do then here is ask some of our panelists questions and make sure that for our audience, we realize that there were many leadership opportunities in Toastmasters. We see some of those at the club level, club president, VP of education, etc. And then we see them in the area directors that help a group of clubs, 4 or 5 clubs. And then the division director, that's sort of that middle level of support for someone who is in those area director roles. They may be new to that, no problem. Division director can help them out or find the answers that they might need. And then the overall district is managed by what we fondly call the trio, the 3 there: district director, program quality director, and club growth director. So just to put the terminology, and we use PQD for short, program quality director, and CGD for short, for club growth director. Alphabet soup, right? Well, let me start off with the first question and ask it of our current club growth director, Denise Castile, and tell us, what have you liked best about the district leadership role? And perhaps blend in a little bit of how you've overcome any challenges to make this all fit together.
Thank you, Christy. I think what I like best about my current role is the opportunity to tell my Toastmaster story, all in the name of perhaps it's networking or mingling or whatever it is. I get to tell my Toastmaster story and why Toastmasters is the absolute best thing that they could do for their career or for their small business. So the best part of it has been really just getting out in the community and having an opportunity to get to know people. So that would be my favorite, best thing about the role. And I think as far as challenges, it is, I think having people to kind of lean on, people who've been in the role before. It's great that the district director was just a club growth director. So having her being on a team where she can guide and say, well, we'll try this, or I did this, or those type of things helps with the challenges. And then just having access to our immediate past district director and other people who've had the role is absolutely awesome. And it makes the challenges seem like they weren't so much of a challenge when you can talk it out with, and having access to people, again, like yourself and others who have had this role. That's how I've overcome the challenges, talking it through with them. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, the camaraderie, there are so many people I have met and had the opportunity to work with, including each of you on the panel, that I would never have had I just kind of stayed in my club. Maybe I would have met you, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work side by side. And that is really a treat in the sense that you achieve things together. It's really rewarding to be a part of something so spectacular and assist so many members across our district. Well, I want to blend a couple questions here and also ask Dan, can you tell us a little bit about what you like best as a division director? What really stood out when you had that role?
Sure. First, I will say the division director role for me was difficult. I did it coming off of the pandemic back in 2021. And life sometimes happens. And when that happens to your area directors, it gets difficult. And I had a lot of things happen to my area directors, which made it a challenging year. But I got to dig in and get to know my area directors, get to know some of the clubs, some of it because I needed to, because of my area directors weren't available all the time. What I really enjoyed about the year is getting to know these people that I really didn't know that well, and finding out about their lives and figuring out how we all work together. And then getting along with these clubs and figuring out how can we best help the clubs. And at times didn't do a great job of helping every club. There were challenges that sometimes were just really hard to overcome, but I really enjoyed the opportunity to dig in and try to help as many people as we could.
Yeah, exactly. Good opportunity to help others. Well, and let's take that one step further in terms of how did you each prepare for your district leadership roles? And obviously there are many of them, so we can't spend all night on that question, but let's start out with Kelly and pick a facet. How did you prepare to take on some of these roles?
Well, most of the time, which is funny, we are normally asked, I think you'd be a great area director. I think you'd be a great division director. I think you'd be a great club growth director. And how I prepare is I normally talk to people who've had the role already and ask them questions to figure out what is it exactly I need to do. Because there's a lot of things said, but what is it that is really your responsibility? And remembering that if you're an area director, your responsibility, and you are the liaison to the clubs, that is your responsibility. You have to do your area director reports. There were a few other things. You motivated clubs to pay their dues on time and fill out their club officer list on time. But what I found most in any of these roles is it's about building relationships with our members. And for me, building those relationships with our members paid off in leaps and bounds. Because when I got ready to do my area contest, I would call my clubs, and guess what? They would take roles, they would show up, they would bring food and raffle baskets. And so we were able to have an amazing area contest. And I think the same is true in every role you have. What it really comes down to is building those relationships with the members in the clubs. And as district director, if you want to be district director, I would recommend that you read the district leadership handbook. Everything you need to know is in there, but read it, really read it, because there are things they will ask you when you're on the nomination, when you're getting interviewed. But it really is about building those relationships. And if you like building relationships and meeting new people and helping them figure stuff out, then be a leader. Don't worry about all the semantics. That is the most important thing. If you have that desire, you will do fabulous at whatever role you take.
Yeah, great advice, isn't it? Building relationships is really what makes it click and what makes it so rewarding as well, because we're working with so many different people. The diversity of experience levels and background that people have in Toastmasters makes it just a lot of fun as well. Okay, Denise, let's ask you a variation of this question as well, is how did you prepare both as club growth director and as an area director? What considerations did you bring into those thoughts and make it ready to take on those district leadership roles?
Well, I don't know if you remember this, Christy, but I was super eager. I joined Toastmasters in January of 2019. Really didn't know a lot about Toastmasters, but I went to the spring conference in 2019. I saw the DTM ceremony and I was like, oh my gosh, I want that. And when I looked it up at that very moment during the ceremony, I saw that one of the things I needed to do was to be an area director. And right after that, I remember reaching out to you at the time. You were coming in as a division director, and we sat down and we talked about it. You convinced me. You said, you know what, Denise, let's start you off as an assistant area director, you know, so you can learn the language and just learn about Toastmasters. I agreed, but before I knew it, there was an opportunity. And there was an opportunity to actually move into the area director role. And I didn't get a lot of preparation for it, but I can remember having meetings. I can remember having regular meetings with you as our division director. And that was a lot of preparation, or shall I say, learning on the job, right? So that was how I approached that particular role. It involved, because it wasn't necessarily planned, it was a lot of learning on the fly, which is okay, as well as being in a meeting or group with other people just like me and learning from them as well. As far as this role for club growth, like Kelly, I spent time with a number of people who had the role before. And while I think that that's great and people are always so willing to sit and talk with me and answer my questions, even though that happens, it's really not like that once you get in the role. And that's not to take anything away from the people who shared their experience. It was their experience. And my experience it's different. And I think that you're not going to know all about that until you're actually in it. And I'm not saying don't ask people. Absolutely. I think it would be foolish to try to go for a role and you don't ask the person who's currently in the role or the person who had it before that person. That's not smart. But know that your experience is going to be entirely different no matter how much they tell you, and try to prepare you for it.
Well, and I love that answer, Denise, in the sense that it's not like, oh, I have to check off these 10 things before I can take on a leadership role. No, you come with the willingness, I can do it. And there are folks to help you, and there's information, and you basically are able to learn on the job. That's a perfect analogy there. You get that input as we go. And that I see a question in the chat too that I want to blend in here and talk a little bit more about the area director roles that Minnie has asked, what can someone do who's remote? And we have had some remote area directors. Dan, I think you had one on your team back when you were division director. Talk a little bit about how that can work for someone who may not be as local as some of the rest of us are.
I had an area director who lived in India. That is probably as remote as you can get. During our area contest, she would dial in sometimes at 1 in the morning. In fact, there was a contest where she dialed in at 1 in the morning and ran the contest from there. And it worked out quite well. There are some limitations from being able to be a remote area director. If you have a club meeting in person, you can't go meet them. You can't go and have coffee with a club president. And it's difficult to travel from India to Dallas, Texas, to be an in-person area director. So there are certain challenges. That area director also had some challenges during that year and had a personal tragedy, which made things even more difficult. But she ended up being a really good area director in a lot of ways, and really put in a lot of effort, more effort than many of the area directors on my team, to try to figure out how can I make this work, even if I'm on a completely different time zone and I got to show up to a meeting at 1 in the morning my time, or whatever that may be. I thought it worked out quite well. Certainly things to balance out as you think about the limitations you have, as well as the things that how you're going to overcome those.
Okay, and you've mentioned too, in the fact that some clubs are meeting online or hybrid, and assistants may be able to visit them in person. So there's many ways to work around what would seem to be a limitation, and we've had some successful area directors do that. Okay, well, I want to move on to another question here and talk a little bit about how the Toastmasters leadership experience has helped you, whether that be in the workplace, in a social setting. What have you gained from that experience? And ask Kelly to get us started on that question. What do you think leadership has let you do that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise considered?
I think, and more importantly, it really is. And I go back to this relationship thing, because as a district leader, you go to training, right? With a bunch of other district leaders from all over the world. And you get to meet them, you get to know them, you hear what they're doing in their district, how they're changing things, how they're broadening, how they're starting clubs. And you build those relationships to make your district better. And I would not have met any of those leaders from all over the world without being in a leadership position in Toastmasters. I also wouldn't have met any of the board without being in a leadership position. And they too are available to talk if you're having an issue or you want to expand a certain program in your district. You can run it by them. They have a wealth of experience. How else it has helped me is, I'm going to say this and be really honest about it. I have turned on my filter to high. In my regular day job, I do accounting. I work with numbers. I don't work with people normally. But in Toastmasters, you just have to turn that filter on to high. Because unfortunately or fortunately, people get stuck sometimes and they get upset. You know, I don't know how many of you have called Toastmasters International and sat on the phone waiting for someone, or they don't call you back. And I get that, and I understand your frustration. I really do. But you just have to let them vent and then help them find a solution. So at times you turn your filter way up, and at times you find your confidants who can also help you maybe see things in a different way. And so you're always learning and growing as a leader in Toastmasters. I have not ever finished a role and said, wow, I didn't learn anything from that. Every time I finish a role, and trust me, I've been an area director at least twice, I think maybe 3 times, because it's my favorite role ever. But every time I do it, even though I know what I'm supposed to be doing, I learn something new. And what I learn most is about the people around me and how I can help them, and how on occasion when I need help, they can help me. So I would say those are the big lessons I've had so far, Christy. I'm sure there's more to come.
Well, yes, now great opportunity here to point out that it gives you that experience, the volunteer leadership opportunities that you may or may not have in the workplace. You know, you said a number crunching focus, that this is more of that people side of things, as well as organization and all of the tools that go with managing a group this large. And that opportunity for an area director to get in and learn from each other. I want to come back to the area director here in a minute. And Yvonne, I'm going to ask you a question on that one too. But let's go back to Dan and ask that same question of what benefits have you seen in yourself from being a district leader, whether it be in the workplace, social setting, how have you seen this make a difference?
Well, I'm going to talk about both the leadership as well as just Toastmasters as a whole. Most of us join Toastmasters, not all, but most of us join Toastmasters because we either don't like public speaking or we feel we're not doing a great job of public speaking. Maybe there's a leadership component of there, but we join to improve our skills. Being a leadership kind of puts that all on steroids, and you really learn how to improve both your leadership and your education and your speaking ability. Today I had a call with a student group at NYU, New York University, who was working with Cornell and a few other colleges. They've asked me to come speak to them. Now, they would have never let me in their college had I applied to that college. In fact, I think I did apply. I didn't get accepted. And when I first got that, I had to say, do you have the right person? You must not have the right person. That is not something 6 years ago anybody would have wanted me to speak at a group of universities for their conference. I think that comes from being in the role of Toastmasters, being in the leadership role where you are put on the spot and you have to figure out how to lead and lead from front. That is personally the example that has come to mind. It came to mind because I had a call about this afternoon.
Well, and I think that's an excellent example, because you're right that it's too easy to sit back and go, oh, it's not me. I'm not the one to be in the front and center for this situation. But Toastmasters leadership puts you in that spot of taking on and coordinating work with others and helping them, guide them in what they're doing, so that you build that comfort, you have that practice, so you're ready when it comes to the business side or another organization to do that kind of work. Well, let's talk for a few minutes about the whole area director and how that relationship fits with division director. Yvonne, I know you have also been a division director as well as an area director, and perhaps you can start us off and just helping our audience better understand, what does an area director do? Some may have never heard of an area director until tonight.
My first exposure to an area director was when some strange person just showed up at my club meeting, and I was very comfortable in the club meeting, but all of a sudden this person got introduced with dignity and respect and honor. And I thought, well, so they're just a Toastmaster, aren't they? And they gave us feedback at the end of the meeting. And then I thought, oh, okay, so there's more than one way to run a meeting. This area director was telling us some things and made some announcements. Oh, there's such a thing as a contest. That was the purpose of the area director's visit. Over the next 2 or 3 months, then I began to learn more about what was out there in beyond the club meeting and available in District 50 of all the districts around the world, contests and conferences and other roles. And a more experienced Toastmaster said, well, how are you coming along in your DTM? And I thought, what? And they said, well, come and listen to this webinar with me. And in fact, this person had a problem with hearing and wanted me to take notes for her. But I was so excited by that webinar that I decided then and there, okay, I want to get my DTM, and I guess I need to be an area director right away, and let it be known to that presenter, if you know of anybody looking for area directors, tell them I'm available. And he said, actually, I think it's too late in the year, but never know. There might be an opening. And at the last 2 weeks before the actual year started, there was someone looking for an area director. Now, the reason why was because there were 2 clubs that started at 7 a.m. in the morning in that area. And that's hard to do if you have to be in an office at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. to go twice to clubs that meet at 7 a.m. There were other clubs that met at noon and another club that met in the evening. That was so exciting. Going to that webinar and learning about the utility of what an area director can do and provide, actually being an area director and meeting so many people, learning there's more than one way to make it through a Toastmasters meeting. We're basically consistent with the overall structure of the organization and the meeting, but there are little tweaks here and there that make it fun, make it more interesting. And I will tell you, I stole some of those ideas and brought them back to my home club. From there, I really wasn't thinking about going on to being a division director, but that person who did the webinar about getting your DTM and what the requirements were called me up and said, you should do it, you should do it. He did that more than 3 times. And I finally said, okay, I'll do that. I'll run for division director. And that was another exposure to a lot of different kinds of experiences. The working with area directors that were following in the footsteps of me and other people that had been area directors, that was a very educational experience. I will say that they were very capable, very motivated, and yet there were challenges. And this was before COVID, can't blame it on that. It's just there are challenges of working with people, other people, and having the goals of putting on contests and conferences and so forth. All of it in the end was very enjoyable.
Yeah, very, very good information there. You're right. It's an opportunity to work with others, to learn more of what's going on. I want to point out too that, as Kelly mentioned, the District Leadership Handbook, and put that link in the chat. It's a great resource. It's huge when you open it, 100 pages. But if you want to know about area director, it's just 2 or 3. Use the table of contents, go jump to that section and see more about what works there. Same thing with division director, etc. And that maybe at this point, also point out that there are several area director positions, 20 some, I think it's 28 right now, and it depends on if alignment adjusts that, but it's 20 some, close to 30. We currently have 6 divisions. So those areas are split divisions, like the ones that are somewhat directional, Eastern and Southern, and the others that we just have geographical groups, but they're not necessarily geographically named, as in Town North, kind of more north, but a little bit of a blend too with Eastern. And then Frontier, Metro, Plains, and I think I mentioned them all now, right? If I mentioned 6. But it is an opportunity then for people to be involved, be an assistant to help us with some of those. And that the area director positions in our district are appointed by the district director, and that they are affiliated with each of the divisions, such that that division director is then recruiting those folks, and that along with people who put their name in for nomination, that's available now. You can continue to put your name in for nomination through June to get into an area director position until those fill up. But for the elected positions, the division directors and then the trio, those nominations are due January 15th because it's a whole process. The nominating committee, for which I chair, DLC is District Leadership Committee, or the nominating committee, that we meet a group of 6 District 50 leaders plus one from another district in our region to make 7 to interview those candidates, to make decisions. The committee would make the decision on who the nominated candidates will be. So that process is all spelled out by Toastmasters International. And we do need those nominations or applications. So you apply yourself or someone else nominates you by January 15th. So the committee can do those interviews, and we're required to then have those to our district director, Kelly, by 6 weeks before the business meeting. The business meeting is when the election is. The district council, made up of our club presidents, VPs of education, have the vote to determine who the next leaders will be. So this is an important part of planning. And even though they don't take office until July 1st, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of transition time from the election in April. Okay, well, that's kind of a quick segue. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But I do want to ask Dan you another question. I just can't remember who I last asked, Dan or Kelly here. We're back for Yvonne, I guess, right? But let's ask both Dan and Kelly here. That what advice would you give someone who isn't sure if they're ready for district leadership?
What advice? I'll go ahead and answer that. I first took the role of area director. I've been a Toastmaster for less than 18 months. I primarily did it because I felt Pathways was getting a bad name, which is why I'm still in my role today. I said, I think that I could help people. That is really the point of what it takes to be a district leader, whether it be area director, assistant area director, whatever that role is a willingness to say, I want to help somebody. Now, the division director, I had a little challenge because being relatively new in Toastmasters compared to the other division directors, that was one of the challenges I had to face. Is I don't know a ton of people, but I found out that if you ask people and say, will you help me connect with people, they will say yes. So if you were wondering whether or not you want to be involved as a district officer, that's the one question you have to ask. Do I want to help other people be a successful club? If so, I think you are the perfect candidate for a role in the district.
Thank you for that. Exactly. Take an opportunity. Yvonne, I think the square is flipping over to you when if you can look at that. Thank you. Okay. And then I want to ask that same question of Kelly. What would you say to somebody who says, I'm not sure if this is for me or if I'm ready?
I would say go for it, because I was asked when I started Toastmasters almost 11 years ago, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And they said, well, we think you'd be a great area director. And I was like Dan, I was maybe a year into it, but I was so excited to be there, and I had met so many great people. And every time they said, just get in the car, come on, you're going to do this or that. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I said, I don't even know what that is. And they said, don't worry about that. We'll teach you. And as Denise had mentioned before, you'll learn on the job. And we won't drop you. We won't let you fall. We will help you. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by people who helped me, who gave me advice when I needed it. I would call them and say, where am I supposed to be? I don't even know where I'm supposed to be right now. And they would tell me. And they gave me a lot of great advice about being an area director, but I would say go for it. Because we are here as leaders to help you be successful. we're not going to let our area or division directors fall. We want to help you be successful. And we make ourselves available so you can be successful. And that is the beauty of Toastmaster. It happens in your club. Your club members support you and hold you up so you are successful. And it happens in the leadership portion of it also. So just go for it. We'll help you. As long as you like hanging out with people and meeting new people and jumping in and doing your best, you're well on your way to being successful in a leadership position in the district.
Excellent advice. I agree. Just go for it. You can make it happen, right? And I want to say here again a minute, emphasize January 15th isn't that far away, given holidays coming and all, that is when we need to see those applications. Certainly the either application for the individual, someone saying, yes, I will take on a division director role, or club growth, program quality, district director. And then there are related forms that you'll see in the District 50 website, that they're on Toastmasters International, but they're linked in there. And Kelly put that in the chat again, that if you go to the homepage, d50tm.org, and click on that first little box that says District 50 DLC, call for nominations, takes you to that leadership page. And there you will see the forms. One of them is a bio to give the committee more information about you. What have your experiences been? What are your ways of approaching some things? What we really need by January 15th is that application, and then the bio form is as well. That there's a form to sign, just like our officers do today, that you understand what you're getting into. Plus the qualifications are there. That for an area director, it's suggested that you have been a district council member, but you don't have to have been a club president or VP of education. It's a nice thing to have that experience. For a division director, you do need to have been on the district council. And for the club growth director, you do need to have been a club president. All of those qualifications are listed in a form that you'll see there on that web page. And the way you submit this is you email those forms to me as the district leadership committee chair at leadership@d50tm.org. All that's on the web page. And so that information is there. Area directors have a little more time, but it's not too early to start thinking and planning for that, and letting those division directors know that you're interested in that, or the leadership team, that application process is there as well. I want to point out that there are actually 6 of those levels. Let's see, what is 6 here? And at the district level, that are for district year of credit. So you can get a distinguished Toastmaster level of credit, not only as a district director, like Kelly is now, program quality director, as Kim Ross is, club growth director, as currently Denise Castile is, but also as admin manager, the person who helps keep track of the many things that need to be done for a district. Nancy Manning currently holds that role. The finance manager, who's the treasurer, the banker for the district, and the public relations manager, like Scott Jordan currently has in that role. All 6 of those give you district leadership service. And the 3 that are beyond the trio are appointed roles. But if you're interested, it's not too soon to start letting people know that you have that skill set, that you are an organizer or a finance and accounting type of background, or very much want to do public relations. Let me pause here and ask our audience here on the Zoom room if you have some questions. We can call on you, or you can put it in the chat. I do have more questions, but I want to give you an opportunity as well. While you're thinking of that, let me consult my handy dandy cheat sheet here, see what I haven't asked you yet, that I want to just highlight some of the things that really make this leadership role amazing, and ask each of our panelists there, ask Dan and Kelly at this point, what accomplishments do you want to call out that happened and you had a part of that in when you were, say, Dan, as division director or area director as well?
Is that for me or?
It is.
Does
Let's
it
start with you, Dan. Let's start with you. What accomplishments stand out that you say that you're most proud of from your district leadership role?
I'm going to go way back to my area director role. It's not that way back. Started my area director role was June 2020 is when I started. One of the things I enjoyed most, and I'm proud of that, I met this club, Harmon Loudspeakers. Anybody's Harmon Loudspeaker I'm talking about. Harmon Loudspeaker had been a club for 6 months. Imagine starting a club a month before the pandemic is essentially how that happened. And shockingly, they weren't doing well, as you would expect. A lot of our clubs were struggling. Certainly a club that had been around for 4 months, there was not a Toastmaster among them that had more than 4 or 5 months of experience. They were lost. I got to come alongside them and bring a few other people alongside of them to figure out, okay, let's get you organized and figure out how are you going to go to a purely online meeting, and how do you do that, and all those sorts of things. That club became distinguished last year. In fact, last Thursday, I attended one of the meetings. I still attend their meetings quite frequently. They still think I'm their area director. I haven't been their area director for 4 years. I still attend their meeting. I enjoy getting together with them on occasion to see how they're doing. They say, hey, we've signed you as Toastmaster this week. Okay, I'm Toastmaster this week. That is the most meaningful experience I had as an area director, probably trumped any of the experiences I had as division director, is being able to come alongside a group of people who wanted help, were trying to figure out, but just needed some additional guidance to move things in the right direction.
That's a wonderful story, because absolutely, to me, that is the beauty of these district leadership roles, is there are a group of people who would like to improve their communication skills, but get stuck with some of the logistics of how you move this club forward. And the district leaders can help with that and find resources. We have many other positions that are supporting roles. And let's talk a little bit about that too. Kelly, if you can talk a little bit about the what you're proud of, but also point out some of those supporting roles are pretty cool positions that make a difference in our district.
Yes, our unsung silent heroes. That's what I call the admin manager and our finance manager and our public relations manager, is they aren't in the front. They aren't well known, and they keep everything running and moving, and us moving forward. And without them, I'd be lost. Honestly, it's a lot of work to keep a district on schedule, on time. Toastmasters International requires us to hit certain milestones by certain dates. And if you didn't have an admin manager, you'd be lost. And if you didn't have a finance manager, you wouldn't know where your money was going. And if you didn't have a public relations manager, you wouldn't be able to let people know what's going on. I do have a story. When I was club growth director, I had a young woman, well, younger than me. Most people are. And she said, I think I want to be an area director, but I don't know. I'm so not sure I can do the job. Well, I told her she could do the job. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely person. And I convinced her to put in her application. She was approved. Her area, she did an amazing job. Her division was distinguished. She was part of a distinguished division. And if you met her today, you wouldn't know about all that uncertainty that she had and how uncomfortable she was taking on that role. But she did an amazing job. She shines. She's a wonderful human being. And now she's saying, I think I might want to do something else. But I'm not sure. And I said, no, look at what an amazing job you did as area director. And that woman is Amy Bemis. When I met Amy, she was absolutely positively terrified of being an area director. And she has helped so many people in the district. She's been on all kinds of committees. Her area, she did an amazing job, and her division was distinguished. And from all that uncertainty and adversity, she shines the brightest light. And I am so proud that I sat there and convinced her to take that role, that she could do it, because she has turned out to be an amazing leader in this district. That's
Definitely a success story. Yes,
a-
indeed. Yes, well, we are coming to a point where if you have other questions, let us know here, because we're going to wrap up. Want to point out again that area director is that appointed role, so it's not too early to get your name in, but you actually have until June to make that decision. Division directors will start being recruiting, looking for those area directors come April, don't you think, Kelly? That is the election.
Oh, yes, maybe before.
Exactly, because a best practice that I know other division directors have pointed out is to start looking for folks that you see are ready for opportunities, and let them know if you're running for division director, that especially as the nominated candidates are listed, that you are ready to start finding area directors, that opportunity. And for division directors, that opportunity to grow into that, there is support, there's training for area directors and division directors, both in the early, as you're getting started stage in the summer, and then also again in the winter. Sometimes they say it takes us the first 6 months to really get in our stride, know what we're doing. So it's great to have training again. Plus, there's the most fantastic training for the trio, the club growth director, program quality director, district director, along with the Toastmasters International Convention in that summertime in August. And to me, as a district leader, that was one of the hidden gems that I hadn't really understood until I was there. The connections that I've made with district leaders in other districts in our region especially have been very valuable. If others who are going through some of the same situations that we are, and able to share your ideas and then get to connect in person at those conventions. And we have mid-year training as well. So the support is there. Those supporting teams are there. And we want to make sure people are aware of that. Again, the date to remember is January 15th. It's a Monday. It happens to be MLK Junior holiday. That's the date to get your forms in. You'll find that information on the D50 website. When you click on DLC, call for nominations, takes you to that leadership page, gives you information, scroll down, and you'll see the forms to click on. You can nominate yourself. It's an application form, or someone else can nominate you, and that then the bio form would follow to provide more information for the committee. The committee will have interviews on Zoom. I'll be reaching out to coordinate those as the DLC chair. And then after we've interviewed all, the committee would make those selections of the nominated candidates. And we would then provide that information to our district director, who in turn would then let the district council know, so they can become familiar with candidates before the actual election in mid-April. Any other questions?
No, thank you so much. This has been really a lot of information. I think I'm going to go through the links that have been shared, and I will send in the self-nomination form.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Always good opportunity for more leaders. How about others here? Other questions?
Oh, Eugene, where'd you go?
Eugene, do you have a question?
Yeah, if the area director needed to be outside your own club, or it can be the area of your own club.
Oh,
It's-
well,
It happens both ways. Yep, as Kelly said. Do you want to talk more about that, Kelly, as to how you made those assignments?
so I have been an area director where my home club was in my area, which was very convenient for me. I'll just say that because it was easy for me to write their area director visit report. It's first one done. Or you can be an area director that your club is not part of, which is also a great opportunity to meet a lot of new people and figure out what's going on in their clubs. And like I said, building those relationships. So when you need a little help, boy, they say yes to you. So it happens both ways. I've done it both ways. I had clubs that one was a Republican club and one was a Democrat club. So they were on opposites.
So for the election year, that could be an interesting club
Yes.
or area contest.
And when we had city elections or county elections in Nevada, it would get very tense in those clubs, but boy, was it was great. And I also got to meet some of the folks because they went to practice their speeches that they were giving in order to get elected. So once they were elected, I knew them. So if my property tax bill was unacceptable to me, I knew the woman who printed that bill, so I could call her. But you get those opportunities to network. But I know you're good at that, Eugene.
Because
Thank you.
I know is when I was an area director 7 years ago, my home club was in the division, but I didn't have that area. I had a club where one of my fellow area directors was a member. So we each had kind of a different, like shift one left kind of area group of clubs, so that we didn't have our own home club. But we had somebody we knew, one of our fellow area directors, right there in one of our clubs. So that relationship building was fantastic. It's left some many long-term relationships. Monica Durden was also an area director in the clubs at that time, as was Michelle Chadwick. And, I could go on here. It's a great opportunity to work together, and something then you work with your division director and the incoming district director to determine which area is best for you. Sometimes, like the mention that it was made earlier, was the 7 a.m. I think, Dan, you mentioned that a 7 a.m. club may not be everybody's cup of tea. Some people, like I think Kelly's an early bird, but I don't know that everyone is ready to be up and visiting their club at that time.
Yeah, when
I just want to say one thing. I did chair the contest from India at 1:30 in the morning also for last year.
Thank you.
Last
Exactly.
January.
The opportunity for us worldwide, the wonders of Zoom have made things that you would never have been able to do in the past possible.
Thank you
And
for
that-
doing that. Yeah, I had a club in my area. They meet at 6:35 a.m. So I visited all my clubs once a month. Once a month, I'd get up and I would be there at 6:30 in the morning. And lucky me, they'd buy me breakfast because I got up that early. So I got an added benefit for visiting that club.
There you go. Added benefit. Yes. Well, and some leaders have said that the area director is that best friend every club deserves. It is that person they can go to and go, ring, ring. I've questioned on this. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. And area director can help them. Or if they don't know, they contact their division director or one of the other support team members, and they can get an answer and help them move forward. Well, I see that we are at the top of the hour. So I want to remind again that if you have questions, you can contact me by going to leadership@d50tm.org. We'll put that in the chat here, and that email will come to me, and I can arrange time for us to talk or Zoom meeting, whatever works for you. And that it will then be the way that you submit the forms as well by January 15th. If you think of someone who you think, oh, wow, this person would be really good at this, talk them into it or let me know. And Kelly and I would be happy to talk with them as well. The opportunities are truly amazing. And the way you can grow for yourself, you can see others grow is so rewarding. I want to thank Yvonne for organizing this leadership learning opportunity, always on the ball. Thank you for getting it together, as well as our panelists, Dan Reeder, Kelly McMaster, and Denise Castile. Excellent information, and look forward to seeing our new leaders come forward and moving into the next phase of this leadership process. Thank you all.